Hey everybody, welcome to Everything Accounting. I'm Alfred Zaglul, your friendly neighborhood accountant, and today we're going to talk about setting up a business for value added in the next 5 years. Great, but most companies can't. So it's always important to see what you need right now and how much time is going to take to train this person to get them up to a place where your capacities can grow. And speaking of capacities, I always like to say as a benchmark that 80% of capacity is when you should start hiring. If I'm at 80% capacity, that means that I'm at a point, if I'm consistently there, I'm at a point where one more client, one more job, one more project, and I'm gonna be at 100%. And I know everyone's like, why won't you wanna be at 100% capacity all the time? Burnout is real. You want to take a vacation, you want to take time off. Sure, like you're running a business and you're going to hear a ton of people on the internet being like, you shouldn't take time off. You should be busting your butt trying to like build up your business for the next 10, 15 years until you make your millions. That's not how it works. That's not how everyone works. So it's really an understanding what you actually can do, what you physically can do. So for me, I could go 2-3 years without a vacation, right? But other people might need a vacation every 6 months, right? Some people might need to take the weekends off. Some people might not be able to do Monday to Sunday, everyday work. Like it's an understanding your capacity and then being at 100% consistently. Over time, you're gonna burn out and then you take your break. And then you'll realize once you've taken your break, you have less of a time frame. So there's a residual impact when you're working at 100% all the time. So that's why I say if you hit 80% capacity, then it essentially tells you, hey, I now need to hire someone to bring my capacities down to about 60%. And then in hiring that person and you're at 60% capacity, you have the ability to grow more. So now you have an extra 20% leg room to essentially grow your business. So it's really, really important to evaluate what your capacities are. Now, I can't tell you point blank, your capacity is gonna be at 5 clients, you're gonna be at 80% capacity, because it really just depends on what you do, right? And who you are and how you run and how you operate your business. So in understanding that, you can then start to scale. The other side of it is understanding the possibility when you're hiring, is it going to increase sales or reduce your costs? Those are the two factors at the end of the day. When I'm looking at a business and I'm looking at any non-value added cost, I'm basically saying you're spending on this, it's neither bringing in sales and it's neither reducing your costs. Cut it, right? If I'm here to dissect a business, that's basically what I'm looking at. So even in valuations, even in analysis and performance management of a business, you need to evaluate, do I need these 17 softwares that I'm bringing on, or can I combine them all into 5 softwares, cut everything else, cut the fat, and just focus on efficiently running the business with these 5 softwares. So it's always important to review that. And that's not something that you do at the beginning and then you're done and you're running efficiently. This is something you constantly work at. This is something you constantly think of throughout the creation and inception and maintaining your business, right? So always focus on the growth of your business in those 2 regards. So even bringing on salespeople, that's always something that comes up. In a lot of my meetings, they're like, when should I bring on a salesperson? I'm like, you can bring on a salesperson, but that salesperson needs to bring in sales added 3, 4, 5x of what you're paying them to allow for that growth of sales, because their sole job is to bring in sales, right? So if you hire this person and you realize that, hey, within a year, you're breaking even on this person, then they're not actually adding value, right? So that's how you want to look at all these things. That's how you want to analyze all these items. It's really in cost savings or sales increasing, because that in and of itself, if you focus on those 2 things, you're gonna have profitability. And that's what everyone wants. No one wants to run a business that's losing money every year. At the end of the day, everyone wants to make money. You're not in business to sit around, twiddle your thumbs and just be like, oh, I'm a business owner. You wanna make money. So to do that, you have to increase sales, reduce your costs. So that's it. That's all you have to focus on when you're scaling your business. And that is accounting for employees, that's accounting for softwares, that's accounting for any expenses that you're incurring, right? If it's not adding value overall right now, it's not worth it. So another thing to consider is when you're scaling your business, as we were talking about before, is understanding your clients. That actually changes as your business grows. And I'll say this as myself. Like when I first started my accounting services and I understood my accounting business, I took on any client that came through the door, right? I was just like, let's get me sales. Let's get me clients to build up my business and grow, build the name, all that. Eventually, and this is not like downplaying anyone, like I was focusing on small businesses, and that was my niche because that's who I knew. Like it was just my network, right? So based on that, I was getting a lot more clients that were small businesses. But then over time, as I grew, my time became very valuable. My time, to me, my time became very limited. So to make sense of the business and to grow the business, sometimes you have to be like, okay, these were my clients. This was my client base. Do I keep this client base, keep growing, build a quantity play, or do I start to look at a different sector to grow my business? Like, where is my business growing? Because every business evolves. And I tell this to all my clients is that if you are stagnant in business, you're failing. And that's because the world around you and the economy around you is constantly growing. So if you are stagnant year over year over year, that means that you're actually falling behind all your competition. You're falling behind all your client needs. So if you're growing year over year, then you're doing something right, essentially. Now, in terms of the customer base, like I was saying, I was at a time focusing on small business. Now, over the last 4 or 5 years, I've noticed that the businesses that I worked with started to grow with me. So there were businesses that were growing substantially. There were businesses that came to me that are a lot bigger. And I'm talking like going from $50K a year businesses to 10, 15, 20, $30 million businesses year over year, right? So you're evaluating what kind of businesses you're working on, right? And I'm not saying cut your clients. I'm not saying get rid of anyone, but you start to evaluate, is my time worth more working on this client or is it worth more working on this client, right? And it's just a numbers game. Is my product providing what it needs? Is it treated as a necessity or a luxury good for this client base? And then is it a luxury necessity for the next client base? It's an understanding your customers, and as your business scales, as your business grows, your customer base increases or changes. And to do that and to realize that your customer base is changing, you have to change with it. So your product or your service has to adapt. So that could be, if you're in a service-based industry, like I'm gonna, again, use myself as an example here. If as an accountant, most of my clients are looking for valuation services, right? If they're looking for valuation services, then I need to be able to provide valuation services. And say I don't have the expertise. That means that I have to train to learn these things. I have to grow to be able to provide that. Say a lot of my clients are in e-commerce and I have no idea how e-commerce works. For me to grow and scale, I have to understand e-commerce to then provide them the value that they're looking for. If I'm trying to sell, say, coffee beans, right? But the majority of my clients, I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and say the majority of my clients are out in Montreal. Am I gonna open up a physical location here in Edmonton and be like, hey, come to me? No one's gonna come. Constantly looking at the data that you're collecting in terms of, I'm gonna cut the others, focus on these 10s. And if I don't know in my expertise as an accountant, I'm sure you don't know.